Hello everyone and welcome to How To in Access 2013. My name is Steve Bishop, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how to create a keyword search for your forms. So in this particular example, I'm going to go ahead and grab the Northwind database, the Northwind database template, and create a new database based off of it. And then I'm going to create a form and a subform. And in that subform, it's going to be a continuous form with all of our customers in the Northwind database. And then on the main form, it's going to have a keyword search that filters our subform based upon what the user types in the keyword text box. It's going to filter it based upon the last name that they type in. So let's go ahead and hop out here and go to our Access 2013 instance. And I'm just going to go up here and type in Northwind to get our, to do a search for our templates, and you'll see the Northwind database. Just going to double click on that, and it's going to go ahead and create a new database for me. And there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and enable the content, close our login dialog, and I'm going to change this to be object type just so that we can have, I just prefer this particular view in the navigation pane. All right, so in our customers table, we can see that we've got several different columns here. But for the demonstration, I'm really only going to be concerned about these first four: the ID, the company name, last name, and first name. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a continuous form that's going to be our subform that is filled in with these four pieces of information. So let's go to the Create tab and go to the form design. And since it's a continuous form, it doesn't need to be too long. It's going to get longer as it goes. Let's change the format from single form to continuous form. And now, because it's going to be continuous form, I like to add a header and footer to the continuous form. But actually, we don't even really need the footer, so I'm just going to scroll this up here, make it not there anymore. I'm just going to drag and drop it. Okay, so in our continuous form, we're going to have those four columns of information. So we need to drop in a couple of, or drop in four text boxes here. I'm going to get rid of the label for this one. This is going to be our ID field. And I'm going to change it so that its size is only 8 in font. And let's auto size the text box. It doesn't need to be too wide because our ID field is really just numbers. That's only 2 digits wide right now, so it doesn't need to be very big. But I also want to add a label here. We're going to call it ID and put that little header at the just above the text box so that people, when this continuous form gets filled out, they'll know that this first set of text boxes is the ID text box. Let's change it to black and size 9 bold. And let's again auto size that. All right, let's make the next one. And this one is going to be our company name. So it needs to be fairly wide. And let's change this company. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here and just make the other four text boxes and headers here and just kind of make everything nice and sized properly. So I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, so we've got our text boxes and we've got our headers. I went ahead and renamed these two so you can see TXT company, TXT last name, etc. So we've got the properly named set for our text boxes here. Now what we need to do is go ahead and set the record source for our form. So I'm going to go to the Data tab, Record Source, and click on the ellipses here. And I'm going to, again, we're filling it in with the customers table. So let's go ahead and select the customers table. And we only need these first four fields, so let's go ahead and drag and drop them down into our design here. And I would like to go ahead and order the results based upon the last name in alphabetical order. So I'm going to change the last name cert order to ascending, and let's go ahead and save that and close it. Now we need to go ahead and set the bindings of these text boxes to the appropriate control sources. So again, just going to click on the Data tab for the text box, change the control source to the appropriate field. Company is going to be company, last name is last name, and first name is first name. Okay, so let's go ahead and view this. Just make sure, yep, we're getting the data that we want in the order that we want we can see it's alphabetically ordered. But I do want to go ahead and get rid of the these record selectors and the navigation buttons down there. So let's go ahead and go back into the design view and get rid of that. Let's go to the format, record selectors change to no, navigation buttons to no, and okay, that looks pretty good. Headers look pretty good. Everything looks just exactly how I want it. So let's go ahead and save this form. And since this is going to be the subform, this is going to be the form inside of our main form, I'm going to go ahead and name this with a prefix of SFRM for subform, and it's going to be the customer list. And let's go ahead and close that. So now we need to go ahead and create our main form. So let's go to Create tab, Form Design, and this one does need to be fairly large because it's going to be our main form. It's nice and wide there and big. Okay. In our main form, we're going to need to give a place for our subform to show up. And you do that by going to the subform subreport object here, and let's click on that and just kind of create a space here for where our subform is going to be. I don't need to fill that out. Let's go ahead and get rid of the label. And I'm going to name this object from child 0. I'm going to change it to sub customer list. Okay, and now what we need to do, we need to set the source object property here equal to that subform that we just got done creating. So let's click on the drop down here, scroll down until we see that subform customer list that we just created, and there we go. So now we've got our subform, our continuous subform, shows up inside of our main form. Okay, great. So now we need to go ahead and create a place for our keywords, for where the user is going to type in the keywords and go ahead and do the search. So let's click on the text box here, and let's create a little spot here for the keywords. Let's give it a label here called keywords. Alrighty, and let's make this, I like black, makes it a little bit more visible. Make this nice and wide so there's plenty of room for somebody to type in their keywords. And I also want to add a button here that the user will click on in order to initiate the search. So let's go ahead and add that there. Okay, I'm going to name this button, instead of command 4, we're going to call it BTN search. And I also need to change it from saying command 4 to search. And then our text box here, let's change it from text2 to txt keywords. And there we go. Okay, so this is the actual input where the user is going to type in the keywords and then click on the search button. But some of you may prefer the functionality of being able to type in a keyword and then hit the enter key, right? You type in what you want, say bishop, and then hit enter, and you want that to do the search just as much as you want them to be able to click on the search button. Well, you can do that. You can set that by going to the search button and changing the default property in the other tab to yes. And when you say that this is the default button on the form, that means when the user hits enter key while they're on this form, it's going to act as if you just clicked on that search button. So it's going to trigger the on-click event when the user hits the enter key on their keyboard. So essentially they're going to be able to type in bishop, hit enter, bishop. I should be able to type my own name, shouldn't I? So they type that in and then hit enter key, and that would act as if they just went over here to the search button and pressed on click. Okay, so let's go ahead and now, well, let me explain exactly what it is we're going to do here. So right now our subform here, this form that has all of our results of all of our customers, right now it's being filled in based upon this record source query that we built. What we want to do then is filter these results based upon what the user types up here in the keywords text box. And the way you do that is you essentially replace this record source with a new record source that includes whatever we've got here in the keywords text box. So let's go ahead and take what's currently there in the record source. Let's go ahead and copy all of this. So let's go and highlight all of it and copy this. And we're going to take that, and when the user clicks on the search button, that's when it's going to replace the query, right, that's filling in the record source. When the user clicks on the search button, it's going to replace that record source property. Okay, so we're going to go to the search button, go to the on-click event, do our code builder here, and let's do option explicit. All right. So what we want to do first is we need to build the query that's going to replace this record source. And we just copied the original one. So let's do dim SQL as string. So let's create a string variable called SQL. And we're going to fill it with what's currently there right now. Okay? And I'm going to format this just a little bit to make it easier to read. Okay, so we've got a select statement that's getting the ID, company, last name, and first name from the customers table and ordering it based upon the last name in ascending order. So we want to essentially filter this query with the keywords that the user types in here, and we want to filter specifically by the last name, right? We're filtering the last name, comparing it to what the user types in the keywords text box. And whenever you're talking about filtering a query, you can use either the where clause or the having clause, depending upon whether or not it's an aggregate query. This is not an aggregate query. This is a pretty straightforward query where we're getting all the results. There's no functions on here like min, max, last, first, group by, anything like that. So we're going to use the where clause. And the where clause needs to go before the order by clause. So we're going to stick it right here. And our where clause is going to be comparing the last name to what the user types in the keyword text box. So we're going to do where last name, we could say equals, and remember, since this is going to be a comparison of a string, we need to wrap it up in apostrophe. So we've got this apostrophe here to indicate that it's text, and it's me.txt keywords, which is the keywords that the user types up in that text box. And okay, oops, that's not it. We want to use, there we go. And we do need to add just some formatting here. There we go. So we're going to do a where clause last name is equal to whatever the user types in the keyword section. Now, there's one drawback of doing it this particular way, and that is, what if the user is not looking for an exact match of what they type in the keywords, but rather something that is similar to, like it's really close. Maybe I only know the first 3 letters of the person's last name, and I don't know the full last name. Well, then this equals operator here as part of your where clause is not going to work, because it's not going to be exactly equal. They want the results that are like what they've typed in the keyword section. And because of that, instead of using the equals operator, we want to use the like operator. And when you use the like operator, what you have inside of the apostrophes here, you can use wildcards, okay? And so we're going to throw in a couple of wildcards, both before and after the keyword that the user types in. And that should now basically fill in a like statement. It creates a like statement for whatever the user types in here for the keywords, and then asterisk before and asterisk after, so that we're using wildcards to match wildcards with whatever they've typed in that are like what the user, the last name is. Okay, so hopefully you guys follow along with that. I hope that makes sense. We're wanting to do a like statement instead of an equal statement. All right, so now that we've got our SQL query built, we need to go ahead and apply it to the record source for our subform, okay, this record source here. So we need to replace it. And you need to replace it from this module here, which is the form, right now it's called form 1, but we need to start from here, from this module, and drill down to this subforms record source. The way you do that is you start off with the me, which just points to the form that you're currently inside of, right? Which is this main form here where the keywords text box is. So starting there, drill down and go to sub customer list. Now this, the sub customer list, is the name that we gave the object that fills in the subform. Okay, it's not the name of the subform itself. Remember, we named the subform is called SFRM. Okay, but we're not actually specifying the name of the subform. Instead, you specify the name of the object that contains the subform, and that was called sub customer list. That was this thing that we clicked on here to create a new subform, right? Okay. So, oops, let me go back up here. Okay, so we wanted to get the name of our source of our subform object called sub customer list, and inside of it, again, we still don't need to reference the name of the form because on our subform object is a property called form, and that actually references, regardless of what the name of the subform is, the property form references that subform. Okay, so we're saying form, and then the property of the form that we want to access is the record source. We want to set the record source equal to the SQL query that we just built up above here. Okay, so we're creating our SQL query that's going to replace the record source of our subform. And then here we're actually setting the record source equal to what that query is. But that's not enough. There's one more step we need to make. When the form first opens up, and that includes the subform, when the subform first opens up, it runs whatever is in this record source. Okay, it doesn't run what we've got in the search button. Okay, and once it fills in the results, it stays there until you tell it to check again for what the results are of the record source. So we need to add one other command after we've changed the record source property. We need to tell it to go ahead and requery. Okay, and that will now cause this subform to requery itself based upon this new record source that we've given it. Let's go ahead and save this form now. This is the main form, so we're going to call it FRM customers. And that should be good. Let me go ahead and do a debug compile just to make sure I didn't mess up anything there. And let's go ahead and view. Okay, now again, we're doing based upon last name. Everything looks good so far. We've got everything is still ordered by last name. Let's go ahead and use our keywords text box here, and I'm going to filter, I'm going to look for the results where AXEN is the keyword here. So AXEN for a last name, click on search, and there we go. There's our one record of Axon Thomas. And let's see if we can get, I believe one was called Anderson, spelled with an E, but instead of clicking on the search button, I'm going to go ahead and hit the enter key on my keyboard, and there's Anderson Elizabeth. Perfect. Now what about if we want to get all of our results back? Well, we can just go ahead and delete everything in our keywords section, click on the search button again, and there we go. There's all of the records again. And that is because when there's nothing in the keywords text box, it's essentially blank. It's nothing. It's null. So this turns into essentially this. And where last name like asterisk asterisk, you know, two wildcards, it's essentially going to pull up anything, right? It's going to give us any results at all where there's any last name whatsoever. Okay, so that's perfectly acceptable. It's going to replace our blank with nothing, right? Our keywords is blank, so there's nothing in there, and so we're going to get all of the results that we're looking for. That's a certain amount of functionality I think everybody really likes, being able to just delete what's in the keyword section and click on that search button again, and it refills it in with all of our records. All right, so that's pretty cool. Now what about if you want it to not only filter by do a search by last name, but you also want it to search first name too. Because what if I want to type either Elizabeth or I want to type in Anderson? Okay, well, here's what you can do. Let's go back into the design view here. Go to the search on click event. And we're going to change this where clause to have like on just the last name. Let's now go ahead and add an or statement. The first name could also be like asterisk me.txt keywords. Okay, so now we're going to filter our customers table where the last name is like whatever they've typed in the keywords, or the first name is like whatever they've typed in the keywords. Okay, so either one, if whatever they type in the keyword section matches either the last name or the first name, then I want those as a result. So let's go ahead and save that, compile it just to make sure, again, I didn't mess up anything. Let's go ahead and click on view. And now I should be able to do, say, Thomas. And sure enough, there we go. There's Axon Thomas again. Okay, but this time it grabbed it from the first name. So we could do that, or we could do Anderson. Again, that's the last name of Elizabeth. So there we go. It works for both either the last name or the first name, and we get the right results. So that's perfect. Now, some of you may not be using a continuous form for your results, and instead you are using a list box. Okay, so rather than this continuous form, let me just shrink this down. Instead of using a continuous form, you've got a list box. You can do essentially the exact same thing on your list box as we did with the continuous form. So let's go ahead and just for demonstration here, I've got my list box. Let's rename it to LST customers. And let's set the row source equal to the customers table. Get those first 4 fields again, drag and drop, change my last name to ascending, save that, close that, and we want to show in our list box 4 columns. And I'm sure you probably have got your formatting of how wide you want your list box and all that good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and change this to size 10 just to make sure I got enough room. All right, let's go ahead and view this sucker. So there's our list box, right? And this is very similar to the continuous form. And so that's why some of you might actually prefer the list box over a continuous form. And this is perfectly fine. We can use we can still do essentially the same thing on this list box as we did to the continuous form. So rather than setting the this record source property of the continuous form, instead we're going to change the row source property of our list box, and that will essentially do the same thing. So let's go to our search button, go to our on click event, and I'm just going to go ahead and comment out these 2 things here because we're not setting our record source anymore. Instead, we want to change the list box of our customers. We're going to change the row source equal to the SQL query. And then again, we want to do the same thing, list customers requery. Okay, it's really identically the same thing. It's just a different property on the list box than it is from the from our subform. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that, compile it, make sure I didn't goof up anything. Let's go ahead and view this, and now we can do Anderson, do a search, and there we go. There's our Elizabeth Anderson. And we could do Axon. There's Thomas Axon. We could do, again, Elizabeth. I think that's the right way to spell it. Sure enough, there she is, right there. So we can do a whole bunch of things with this search keyword very similarly between the list box and our continuous form. Okay. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop me a line in the comments section of this video. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. And as always, please feel free to like, favorite, subscribe, tell your friends about this, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.